June 1st, 2014. My name is Jason Bunn Parsons. I'm an autistic self-advocate. This is the second video in a series talking about what the Autistic Self-Advocacy Community of Phoenix, Arizona, USA has done to play by the rules in order to get our needs met. And basically to tell you that in spite of us playing by the rules, we've been completely ignored, and so we are not getting our needs met. But anyways, in this video, what I'm wanting to do is go back to March of 2010 and the Autism conference that I attended. That was put on by the Autism Conferences of America, which is a subsidiary of the Autism Society of America, and a lot of things happened during that conference. And one of the things is I learned a lot of good, helpful information, including about the biomedical issues, particularly the gastrointestinal issues that autistics have a lot of problems with. And this was very important to me to understand because of how these affected me in the past, and me having problems controlling my bowels, and throughout the 70s and 80s, based on the information that they had at the time, everybody believed that I was choosing to not control my bowels and choosing to soil my underwear, when in fact I wasn't. It was something that was completely beyond my control, a fact that they just simply could not accept. And so when my mom attended this autism, or attended the in-service because of her being a LPN at the time, and they were talking about autism and talking about these bowel control issues, and at the same time, I had a cousin that had just been diagnosed with autism, and he had also had these bowel control issues. And so the reason why, it was for this reason that I embraced my diagnosis, because it finally vindicated me of this very embarrassing issue that I had struggled with for my entire life. And so that alone, I was grateful for going to that conference. But anyway, so on the second day of the conference, that they have a panel of, let's see, there was at least seven autistics on the panel, and so and it was actually a half session, and so we all got to share for about 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes each, telling our stories, and then answer questions from the audience. And so anyways, and so when it came my turn, I started talking about what I had learned at the conference, and so I opened up for the first time about the fact that I had these bowel control issues, and then after the session was over, one of the teens on that panel approached me privately and thanked me for what I had shared, because she herself had been struggling with these exact same issues, and it was so embarrassing that she still could not talk about, not only talk about it in public, but when she had shared it with me, she just abruptly walked away without even giving me a chance to respond. And so this is how difficult of an issue this is for many of us autistics to deal with. And so but before she walked away, one of the things that she did was she told me that there were times where she would get the urge to go and then lose it before she could get to the toilet. And so I pondered that to myself for a while, and I realized that not only had I had those types of episodes, but I had a second type where I would start to defecate, but then it would retract back inside, just completely involuntarily. And this part is why it was assumed that I was doing things on purpose, is that I was deliberately sucking my bowel back into my colon, instead of just going. And so So I was thinking about this quite a bit over the next few weeks. And so then when the next support group meeting occurred in April, and I announced to the group that we were trying to organize an autistic self-advocacy group, and doing a little rah-rah speech. The guest speaker for that particular month was Jerry Larson of SARC, Southwest Autism Research and Resourcing. And so she heard my little speech, and so she invited me to come down to SARC and talk to her about me possibly doing some advocacy in SARC, and I thought this was great. And so I went down there, and she and I had a private meeting, and what she was wanting is to do another panel just like we had done at the conference. And but what I wanted to do is I wanted for the Autistics to basically set the itinerary ourselves and talk about the issues that we wanted to talk about. Okay, and Miss Larson didn't go for this. And later on, when I talked about this to the directors of several other mom and pop organizations locally, they said, "Yep, that's SARC for you. Basically, if you want to work with SARC, you have to conform to what they want, and if you're not willing to do that, then they're not going to support you." And so, anyways, but the other thing that I discussed with Ms. Larson was the bowel control issues, and how I was wanting to challenge the researchers on some of the assumptions that they were making, particularly the assumption that autism starts in the gut and goes to the brain, when in fact I believe I can make a strong case based on my personal experiences, as well as the fact that they produce no statistics talking about their success rate in curing bowel control issues. They talk about all this other success that they have, which I believe is legitimate, but they completely skip the issue of bowel control. Okay, and so if they're not curing bowel control, if they're doing everything to treat the gut, and they're doing all this good stuff by treating the gut, but they're still not curing the bowel control, then maybe the bowel control does not originate in the gut, but originates in the neurology, and can be explained by the experiences of not only myself but also this teenager who I talked to at the conference. And at that point, Ms. Larson ended the conversation because she had absolutely no interest in any such type of dialogue between autistics and their researchers. And so the next month, May 2010, Jim Adams, who's the director of the Autism Society of Greater Phoenix and president of Autism Conferences of America, or at least he was at that time. I think he's actually stepped down since then and turned it over to somebody else, but I could be wrong about that. But anyways, bottom line is, so he had this great proposal about a special building a special community for autistics only. Kind of like have the 55 plus community for older individuals. Well, this would be for autistic individuals. And so while we were debating how we should go about advocating for ourselves, he was in the parents group that met down the hall, presenting this idea actually for the second time, because he did the initial proposal, and so back in September of 2009, and then this time he was coming. This was a follow-up basically, and so then after we got done with the parents, he came to our group and did the proposal. And but before he did that, he started off by talking about the latest biomedical research, and which basically the same thing that he had discussed at the conference, I think about 3 weeks prior to that. But anyways, he had this, that he was presenting all this, and so this is when I presented my theory that maybe they got it backwards, that instead of autism starting gut and working to the brain, that autism actually starts in the brain and which affects the gut. And his reaction, like he had never heard about this, and he didn't get any verbal response, but so he then went on with his regular presentation. Then later I presented the same information, I believe probably about November of 2011, to the author of Teaching Toiletry. And basically, explaining all this, she's like, so you mean you're not aware of your need to go? And it's like, no, that is not what I said. I wrote what I meant, and I meant what I wrote. Okay, and basically, I chastised her a little bit for basically being so close-minded, and anyways, but this is a very important issue, to work out, and the reasons why why they won't accept my theory, I'm not going to proposals. I got some good ideas of why, okay, but nevertheless, I would rather them be forced to talk to me face to face and give me a chance to present my information in public, and then they can respond to it. Okay, Dr. Brian Woodruff, as I mentioned in the first video, is a neurologist that works at the Mayo Clinic, and he has critiqued all my material pertaining to neurology, and he will be the first to tell you that I am very open to having my mind changed if you'll sit down and talk to me, but the thing is, they won't. Okay, they're perfectly happy presenting the information that makes them money. Okay, that's the bottom line. There's more to it than just that, but bottom line is they're making money off of this theory, and they're not interested in an alternative theory that they're not going to make money off of. And because autistics aren't given the opportunity to challenge these theories on our own, that the people that come up with these theories basically have a stranglehold on all the money and all the attention, all the notoriety. They're the only ones that people look to as the authorities. Autistics are not able to present this information, and therefore nobody understands what's actually happening to their child neurologically at the time that they're losing control of their bowels. Okay, and so this is one of the things. This is just one issue, an example issue of all these issues that we want to present to the autism community, but we can't. Okay, and so the next video I'm actually going to be talking about the specific steps that specific projects that the autistic self-advocacy community has done to build the bridges with the autism community and these autism experts, and how they've responded.